Hello students, today we are going to learn about the kinds of share. As per section 43 of the Companies Act 2030, a company can issue different types of shares depending upon the right to control, income and risk. The following are the charts of different kinds of shares are given below. As you can see, normally the company can issue two kinds of share. The first one is a equity share and second one is a preference shares. In equity share there are two subtypes. The first one is equity share with voting rights. Second one is a equity share with the differential voting rights. And the next one is a preference shares. In preference shares there are total 8 subtypes. First one, cumulative preference shares. Second one is a non-cumulative preference shares. Third, participating preference shares. Fourth, non-participating preference shares. Fifth, convertible preference shares. Sixth, non-convertible preference shares. Seventh, redeemable preference shares. And the last one is irredeemable preference shares. So we have seen the charts of equity share and preference shares. Equity share with two subtypes, equity share with voting right, equity share with differential rights, and in preference share there are 8 subtypes. So let us start with the first one, that is the equity shares. Equity share, also known as the ordinary share. Equity shares are the fundamental source of financing the business activity. Equity shareholders own the company and bear the ultimate risk associated with that ownership. According to Companies Act 2013, it defined as those shares which are not preference shares. From the above definition, we can say that equity shares are those shares which is not the preference shares. We can derive from the above definition, we can derive the two most important things related to the equity share. The first one, equity shares do not enjoy the preference of getting the dividend. Okay, the equity share do not enjoy the preference in getting the dividend. And second one is, equity share do not have the priority for repayment of capital at the time of winding up of the company. And because of these two limitations, this kind of share is known as a equity share. Thus, the equity shareholders are the residual claimants of the income and assets, that is, the last one to get the capital or dividend, if any, available to the company at the time of winding up. Thus, the fortune of equity shareholder is tied up with the ups and downs of the company. If company is successful, they enjoy the great financial reward, and if the company fails, the risk falls mainly on the equity share capital. The owners of equity share are real risk bearers. They are the real owners of the company. They bear the risk related to the company and accordingly they contribute the capital in the company. However, equity shareholders have certain rights, like first, they can participate in the management of the company. Second, they can attend the general meeting. Third, they are allowed to vote on the matters in the general meeting. And the last one is, they can elect the representatives of the company, that is the board of directors of the company. Now here we are completed with the equity shares. Now there are two subtypes were there in the equity share capital. The first one is the voting rights and the second one is the differential rights. So let us see that also. In voting rights, equity shares with normal voting rights or such equity share. Normal voting right means the number of shares held by that particular holder of that company will be according to his proportion of equity shares. Equity shares is into his shareholding. If a person holds, for example, if the person holds 10,000 shares, then his proportion of voting will be equal to this 10,000 equity shares. And the second one, equity share with differential voting rights. Such equity shareholders have the varying rights regarding the dividend, regarding the voting in the meeting, and otherwise in accordance with the Rule 4 of the Companies Act, which is related to the share capital in the debentures of the company. Thus, the company can issue the shares with the limited voting right or with no voting right. So, these are the two categories of equity shareholders of the company, that is equity share with normal voting rights. If the person, see here on page number 16, equity share with normal voting rights, it means the normal voting right has been given to the member of that particular shareholder so that he can enjoy his voting according to the number of shares he or she holds. Second one is a differential voting right. It depends upon the limited voting right, it depends non-voting right. It also depends upon the various rules of section 4 of the Companies Act. Let us see the features of equity share. The first feature of equity share is a permanent capital. Now, equity shares are irredeemable share. This means the amount received from the equity share is not refundable by the company during its lifetime. Equity shares become refundable only in the event of winding up of the company or if the company decides to buy back the shares. Buyback of share means what? When the company decides to repurchase its shares, whatever it has issued in the market to the investors of the equity share. So if the company has issued 10,000 shares to me, and if the company is willing to repurchase that share from me, the company can do so, and this procedure of the company is known as the buyback of share. Thus, the share capital is long term and the permanent capital of the company, which is provided by the equity shareholder, and the company can invest it in having the fixed assets for the company. The second one is a fluctuating dividend. Equity share do not have a fixed rate of dividend. The rate of dividend mainly depend upon the profit earned by the company. If the company earns more profit, then the dividend paid is higher. And on the other hand, if the funds are insufficient or if the profit is very less or if there is a loss in the company, the board of directors may postpone the payment of dividend or they will declare the less dividend. So, equity shareholders cannot compel them to declare and pay the dividend. If the profit is less or if there is a loss in the company, then the board of director cannot be compelled by the shareholders of the company to pay the dividend to them. The income of the equity shares is uncertain and irregular. Uncertain and irregular means what? It depends upon the profit of the company. So if there is a huge profit, the company will give them the huge dividend. If there is normal profit, the company will give them the normal dividend. If there is a loss or if there is an insufficient profit, the shareholder will not going to get the dividend. Thus, equity shares get the dividend at the fluctuating rates. The third one is equity shareholders, that is third one is rights. Equity shareholder enjoys certain rights. Now, being an equity shareholder of the company, there are certain rights and privileges has been given to this kind of shareholders. The first one is right to vote. It is the basic right of equity shareholders through which they can elect the directors, they can alter the memorandum of association and articles of association of the company. Alteration means what? Modification and the changes made in the basic books, that is in the memorandum and articles of association of the company. The second right is right to share in the profit. It is one of the most important rights of equity shareholder. They have the right to share in the profit when distributed as a form of dividend. If the company is successful and makes a handsome profit, the advantage of getting the shares of dividend will be very high. And if the company does not have good profit or if the profit is not sufficient, then the shareholders cannot get the dividend. The next right is right to inspect the books. Now, each and every shareholder have this particular rights, so that whenever he feels or whenever there is a need for him to inspect any books of account, he will go to the head office or he will go to any branch office. He can pay certain charges and he can inspect the books of account. He can also demand the copy of that books of account or any particular document which is relevant or related to his interest in that company. The fourth right is right to transfer the shares. Equity shareholders enjoy the right to transfer the share as per the procedure laid down in the Articles of Association. There is a free transferability of shares by the shareholder of in the market. So if you are the equity shareholder of the company, you are free to decide to whom you wanted to sell the shares and at what price you want to sell the shares and at what time you want to sell the shares. It is freely depend upon the equity shareholders of the company. So there are total four rights are given, that is right to vote, right to share in the profit, right to inspect the books and right to transfer the share. Let us come on the fourth point, that is no preferential rights. No preferential right means there are certain things in which the equity shareholder does not have any privileges. Privileges are the we can say privileges that is related to the right of getting something. Let us see that equity shareholder do not enjoy the preferential right in respect of payment of dividend. They are paid the dividend only after the dividend is paid to the preference shareholders of the company. So these are the, we can say now there is no preferential in getting the dividend. If there is a profit in the company, then first that profit will be given in the form of dividend to the preference shareholders of the company, and after satisfying all the preference shareholders of the company, if there are certain profits are remaining, then the equity shareholder have the right to get that profit in the form of dividend. And similarly, at the time of winding up of the company, the equity shareholder is the last person, he is the last one to get the capital if it is available in the company during the winding of the company. So equity shareholder will be the last one who will get the capital back if paying all the dues of the creditors, after paying all the capital, all the amount related to the preference shareholders of the company. If there is any amount of capital is available, then only the equity shareholder will get the capital, and that too at the time of winding up of the company. The fifth point, that is controlling power. The control of the company lies in the hands of the equity shareholders. Now the equity shareholders are the real owners of the company. They are getting then each and every kind of right that is related to the management of the company, and that is because of this reason they are described as the real masters of the company. It is because they enjoy the exclusive voting right, and if the person have the voting right, they can change the any decision related to the management or related to the company. The act provides the right to cast the vote in proportion to the shareholding. For example, if a person have 10,000 shares, his proportion of voting of right is equal to his shareholding, that is 10,000. So if the person have 10,000 shares, his vote will be equal to the 10,000. By exercising the voting right, they can participate in the management and affairs of the company. They can elect the representatives in the board of directors of the company. They are also allowed to vote on all the matters that is discussed in the general meeting, and equity shareholder enjoy the control over the management of the company. Okay, so I hope that you have understood the point of controlling. Let us see the next point, that is risk, the sixth one. Equity shareholder bear the maximum risk related to the company. They are described as a shock observers. Whenever the company have the financial problem, whenever the company is in the financial crisis, they are the person who are going to bear all such kind of risk related to the company. If the income of the company falls, the rate of dividend also comes down, and due to this the market value of equity share will come down and resulting into the capital loss, and thus the equity shareholders are the main risk takers of the company. Let us see the seventh point, that is the residual claimants. Residual claimants means the last one to get something if it is available, the last person to get something if it is available. See here, equity shareholders are the owners and residual claimants to all the earning after expenses and taxes are paid. A residual claimant means the last claim on the earning of the company. As I have said, the last person to claim something, to get something if it is available with the company. Although the equity shareholder comes last, they have an advantage of receiving the entire earning that is left over. So after paying all the dues of the creditors of the company, after satisfying all the needs of the stakeholders of the company, and now if there is a lump sum amount and if there is a good amount remaining with the company, then that particular amount will be distributed in the form of capital to all the shareholders of the company during the winding up of the company. The 8th point, no charge on the assets. The equity share does not create any charge over the assets of the company. Now, what do you mean by this particular term called charge? Whenever any investor investing the capital in the company, then he will make sure that his capital should remain safe, and he should also get some kind of earning in the form of interest or dividend from the company. So the interest and the dividend will depend upon the profit of the company, and if the investor doesn't get that, then he will make sure that my capital should be get back from the company. So here, in order to make the capital safe and secured, the management of the company will create a certain charge on the fixed assets of the company, like land and building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixture, and this charge will be given to a specified investors of the company, and that specified investor is debenture holders of the company. The debenture holders will invest the capital in the form of debentures to the company. They will get the fixed rate of interest, and their capital will also be safe and secured by creating a charge on the fixed assets of the company. And if the company is not in a position to pay the capital back to the debenture holder, then the debenture holder have the right to sell off that particular asset on which the charge has been created, and they can get the money back. Whereas in equity shareholders, there is no such charge has been created over the assets of the company. I hope that you all are very clear with the no charge on the assets of the company of our 8 point. The next one is 9th point, bonus issue. Bonus issue is like a gift given to the equity shareholder. As you know very well the term bonus means the extra thing which is given to a person, which is of free of cost. These are the shares issued free of cost to the existing equity shareholders. These are issued out of the accumulated profit. Accumulated profit हमने कहाँ पे देखा था? We have seen the accumulated profit in cash reserve ratio. Retained earning हमने देखा था पहले. सोर्स ऑफ कैपिटल में हमने ओन्ड कैपिटल के अंदर एक कैटेगरी था, ओन्ड कैपिटल के अंदर कैटेगरी था रिटेन्ड अर्निंग. रिटेन्ड अर्निंग के लिए वी हैव सीन दैट कंसेप्ट. Whenever there is a profit in the company cannot distribute all the profit in the form of dividend. It will retain some part of profit and it will put it into the special account that is called CRR, that is cash reserve ratio account. And whenever the company wanted to use that particular account, they can take that particular capital from CRR, that is from the cash reserve ratio account, and they can use it in the business. So that particular account is also related to the equity shareholders of the company, क्योंकि उनका ही कैपिटल है, उनका जो प्रॉफिट था वही प्रॉफिट सेफ सिक्योर्ड करके रखा था मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द कंपनी. So whenever the management of the company decide for any particular business activity, they can take that particular amount from CRR and they can utilize it for various business purposes. And what is the way the company, whenever the management of the company uses that particular amount, they have to give bonus share from that particular amount to all the equity shareholders of the company, because that particular amount basically belongs to the equity shareholders, and the company have retained such profit. So whenever they are using such amount, they have to pay the bonus from that particular amount to the equity shareholders of the company, and that will be paid in the ratio. For example, if the member have 2 shares, then 1 share will be given extra. So 2:1 is the ideal ratio in which the management of the company gives the bonus share. 2 शेयर है तो 1 शेयर आपको फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट मिलेगा. Why? Because that is the particular amount which the company have utilized, and the company is giving you that particular share in a free of cost. So I hope that you are very clear with the bonus issue. Let us see the next point, that is the face value. The face value of equity share is low. It can be generally 10 per share or even at rupee 1. So last time when we have seen the types of we have seen the features related to the share. We have seen the issue value, the market value, and we have seen with so many types of prices related to the share. So issue value or the face value means the basic value of the equity share which is being decided, and that particular value can be from 1 rupee to 10 rupee, but the ideal price that has been decided by any particular company is rupees 10, which is also printed on the face of the share certificate. I am really very sorry for that, skipping the 10 point. Now I will again explain you the 10 point, that is called the right issue. When the company need more funds for expansion purpose and raising the further capital by issuing the shares, the existing equity shareholder may be given the priority for newly offered share. Now there is a provision made in the memorandum of association related to the issue of shares. Whenever the management of the company, the board of directors of the company decided to raise the further capital in the form of equity shares, then the management of the company, the sum of the board of directors can become very biased. Why it is so? Because they can issue the shares to its members, to some of its friends, to its relatives and some of the other colleagues, so that he can have the control over the management of the company. And in order to remove this particular problem of having an excess control over the management of the company by holding the maximum share, this provision comes into the picture that whenever the board of directors wanted to issue the shares, the first priority should be given to the already existing shareholders of the company. So if the Mr. A is already the existing shareholder of the company, and if the board of directors decided to further raising of capital in the form of equity share, then the first priority, the first right will be given to Mr. A. Why? Because he is already shareholder of the company, and if he decides to buy more shares, then he will exercise his rights. And if Mr. A doesn't want to buy more number of shares, then the board of directors will go to the third party. Then he will exercise, if the Mr. A doesn't exercise his right, then he will go to somebody else to issue the shares and raise the capital. So here right issue means what? Issuing of share capital to already existing shareholder of the company, and if he doesn't exercise his right of having the more share, then the management of the company are free to issue the shares to any other third party. So that is related to the right issue of the share. The 12th point, that is the market value. Market value of equity share fluctuates according to the demand and supply of the share. Now why the market value of the shareholder will fluctuate? Because it depends upon the performance of the company. If the performance of the company is good, then the market value of the share will be very high, because on the basis of the performance there will be an appreciation in the value of the shares in the market. So if there is an appreciation in the value of shares in the market, then the demand for the shares of such company will be very high. And if the company doesn't perform well, then there will be a decrease in the demand of the shares, because the value of shares will come down. So the people will not going to demand the shares for such company. So whenever the demand is more because of the performance of the company, the value of that particular share will go high, and whenever the demand is less because the performance of the company is not good, the market value of the shares will come down. So there may be increase in the market value, there may be decrease in the market value, there may be some situation where the market value of the price of that particular company will remain constant. Okay, I hope that the point is very clear related to the market value. Let us see the 13th point, that is the capital appreciation. Share capital appreciation takes place when the market of the share increases in the share market. How it will increase? When the performance of the company is good, when the performance of the company is up to the mark, when the company will make the optimum profit in the market, then for that profitability and prosperity of the company will enhance the reputation of the company, and that will be reflected in the market value of the share, that will be reflected in the goodwill of the shares, and accordingly the shareholders will get the benefit of all such kind of things. So I hope that you all are very much clear related to the total 13 points that we have seen related to the features of the equity share. First one we have seen permanent capital, that is the owned capital of the company which is provided. The second one, fluctuating dividend, it depends upon the profit of the company. If the company have good profit, the dividend rate of dividend will be high. If the company have less profit, the dividend will be very less. If there is no profit, then no dividend will be paid to the equity shareholder. Then we have seen the third point, that is the right to vote, right to share the profit in the form of dividend, right to inspect the books of account, and right to transfer the shares. These are the some basic rights which is given to the equity shareholders of the company. Then the fourth point, that is no preferential rights. There are two things in which the equity shareholder does not enjoy the privileges, that is getting the capital and getting the dividend at the time of winding up of the company. The fifth point, that is controlling power. The equity shareholder being the real owner of the company, they are the real masters of the company. They have the complete control over the decisions and the management of the company. They can elect the board of directors of the company. They can remove the board of directors of the company. They can decide the decisions related to the company. The sixth point we have seen related to the risk. Equity shareholder are the real owners of the company and they are observing all the risk related to the business. The seventh point we have seen residual claimants, that is the last person to get something at the time of winding up the company. If something remaining in the company, then there will be the last person to get the capital. Next point we have seen charge on the assets. There is no security of capital related to the equity shareholders of the company, and because of that reason the management doesn't create any charge on the assets, fixed assets of the company. We have seen the ninth one, that is the bonus share. Whenever the company wanted to issue the use the amount which is there in CRR, that is in the form of retained profit, they can use that amount, and by that particular amount they have to give the bonus share to the existing shareholder of the company, and that will be in the ratio of 2:1. Then the next point we have seen right issue. Right issue means those particular equity shareholders will get the preference first who are the already shareholders of the company, and if they doesn't exercise the right, then the exercise is given, then the rights will be given to someone else so that he can purchase the shares of the company. The 11th point we have seen the face value, the basic value of the share. It can be from rupees 1 to 10, and accordingly the value will be decided and which is printed on the face of the share certificate. Next one we have seen the 12th point we have seen, that is the face market value. Market value will depend upon the performance of the company. If the performance of the company is good, then the market value of the price will be high, and if the performance is not so good, then the demand, then the value of such good then the value of such equity share will be less. So it depends upon the performance and the demand for the shares of such company in the market. The market value may be high, the market value may be less, the market value may be constant. And the last point that we have seen, that is capital appreciation. It depends upon the performance. If the performance is good, then there will be an appreciation in the price of that share, and accordingly the demand will be more. And if the performance is not so good, then there will be a depreciation in the value of the share, and the customer will and the investor will not going to invest, and there will be no further demand of the shares of that company. And we have also seen the types of equity share, that is the equity share with normal voting right. That means all the privileges and all the rights are given to the equity shareholder, like right to inspect the books of account, right to vote in the meeting, right to attend the meeting, right to alter the memorandum and articles of association related to any particular managerial decision. And the next one, that is equity share with differential voting rights. That means shareholders varying the rights related to getting the dividend, related to getting the voting in the meeting, related to attend the meeting, and various other rules of Rule 4 of the Companies Act 2014 related to the share capital or the debentures of the company. So I hope that you all are very much clear related to the share capital, related to the equity shares, the two types of equity shares, and all the features related to the equity shares. Thank you very much.